Once a valid calibration has been generated or loaded from file, the shortcut button in the toolbar used to access the calibration analysis screen is enabled, so this one here. Underneath the usual toolbar, the analysis screen is divided into 5 panels. These are as follows. The estimated concentrations panel, which displays the results of any analyses. The spectrum selection panel, which is used to load spectra for analysis. The current spectrum panel, which displays the currently selected spectrum. The analyte peak panel, which displays the region of the current spectrum corresponding to the specified analyte peak wavelength. And the matrix peak panel, which displays the region of the current spectrum corresponding to the specified matrix peak wavelength. And as before, the matrix peak panel is only displayed if the selected calibration type is one for which the analyte peak metric is ratioed to that of a matrix peak. To load spectra for analysis, select the New Measurements button and use the file browser displayed to select the spectra to be analysed. And just as an example, we're going to load data for one of the calibration samples used to generate the calibration. The list of measurements will be updated as appropriate, and all of the spectra for the currently selected measurement will be listed. So that's the measurement we've listed, and these are all the spectra that we've loaded. As before, the first spectrum in the list will be displayed in the current spectrum panel, and the corresponding analyte peak and matrix peak will be displayed in their respective panels. To change the displayed spectrum, simply select the required measurement and/or spectrum entry from the list, and the current spectrum, analyte peak and matrix peak panels will be updated accordingly. So that's just as before. The loaded spectra will be analysed automatically using the current calibration and the results displayed in the analysis results panel. Note that right-clicking on this table will allow the user to copy the contents to the Windows clipboard or export it to Excel. If the multiple spectra are loaded from a single file, then the average concentration of all of the spectra in the file is also calculated and displayed along with the corresponding standard deviation, SD, and relative standard deviation, RSD. This spectrum average is highlighted in the table using a blue cell background. So here we have the results for the individual spectra, and then a spectrum average with corresponding SD and RSD. If multiple measurements at different locations on the sample are loaded, then the average of those measurements is calculated along with the corresponding standard deviation and relative standard deviation. So if I load in 10 measurements, we have a result for each individual measurement, and then a measurement average and standard deviation in RSD. This measurement average is highlighted in the table using a lilac cell background. To delete a single measurement from the analysis results, select the measurement in the spectrum selection panel. So select that one. And then select the Delete Measurement button. Note that if the measurement comprises multiple spectra, as we just had, all of those spectra were deleted from the analysis results. To remove all of the analysis results, select the Clear Measurements button. Note that if the calibration configuration is changed when analysis results are displayed, then the results will be updated as appropriate using the revised calibration. There is an option in the spectrum selection panel to remove outliers from the analysis results. This is similar to the operation of the same option on the calibration generation screen and is discussed in more detail in a separate video. Finally, there is also an option on the sample selection panel to enable online analysis of spectra. This option will apply the current calibration to spectra as they are acquired and will display the analysis results on the LibSoft main screen to the right of the spectrum display. This option is only available if a valid calibration has been generated or loaded from file and there is a spectrometer connected to the system, i.e. LibSoft is in a state such that spectra can be acquired. Currently there isn't a spectrometer connected to this system, so this option is disabled. Online analysis will be demonstrated in a separate video.